Maurice Sam's journey, from fame to true love. Have you ever wondered what happens when someone gets everything they thought they wanted, only to realize they've lost the one thing that actually mattered? Picture this: you're scrolling through social media, seeing your favorite celebrity living their best life, red carpets, luxury cars, designer everything, and you think, man, they've got it made. But what if I told you that behind all that glitter and glamour, there's often a heart crying out for something real, something genuine, something that money can't buy? This is the story of Maurice Sam, a man who had to lose everything to find out what truly mattered, and trust me, it's a roller coaster you won't want to miss. Maurice Sam was living what most people would call the dream life. His bank account had more zeros than a math textbook, his Instagram followers numbered in the millions, and everywhere he went, cameras flashed like lightning during a thunderstorm. Women threw themselves at him like he was the last slice of pizza at a college party, and his fame had reached the kind of heights that would make Mount Everest jealous. But here's the thing about having everything: sometimes it feels like having nothing at all. Maurice would lie in his king-sized bed in his mansion, staring at the ceiling, wondering why success felt so hollow. The applause was loud, but the silence afterward was deafening. He had conquered the entertainment world, but somehow, his heart remained unconquered territory, wild and restless like a caged lion pacing behind golden bars. Into this perfectly orchestrated chaos walked Pearl Watts, and boy, did she make an entrance. Pearl was the kind of woman who could start a fire just by walking into a room, and Maurice was about as prepared for her as a snowman is for summer. She was bold where others were timid, fierce where others were gentle, and outspoken in a world where everyone else was trying to say the right thing. Pearl didn't just turn heads, she practically gave people whiplash. She brought excitement into Maurice's life like a tornado brings renovation to a trailer park, which is to say, dramatically and with absolutely no regard for what was there before. Their relationship was electric, passionate, and about as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. Pearl made Maurice feel alive in ways he'd forgotten were possible, but she also brought a kind of chaos that would make a reality TV show producer weep tears of joy. Pearl's philosophy on life was simple and terrifying: don't explain yourself to anyone, Maurice. Not to your fans, not to your family, not even to that little church girl you used to date. The way she said church girl made it sound like she was talking about expired milk, something distasteful that needed to be thrown away. Pearl's possessiveness wasn't subtle, it was about as obvious as a neon sign in a library. She wanted Maurice to cut ties with anyone who represented his past, especially anyone who might remind him of who he was before the fame, before the money, before he became the version of himself that she fell in love with. She didn't want Maurice the man, she wanted Maurice the celebrity, gift-wrapped with a bow and a spotlight. Her love came with conditions, terms, and agreements longer than a software update, and Maurice was too intoxicated by the intensity to read the fine print. Now, let me tell you about Sonia Uche, and prepare yourself because this woman was the complete opposite of everything Pearl represented. If Pearl was a wildfire, Sonia was a gentle rain. If Pearl was a storm, Sonia was the calm afterward. Sonia was the kind of woman who would pray for you when you couldn't pray for yourself, who would pack you lunch with little notes that said "you've got this," and mean every word. She had loved Maurice when his biggest worry was whether he could afford rent, not whether his latest movie would break box office records. Sonia didn't love Maurice because of what he could give her, she loved him because of who he was when everything else was stripped away. She was there during the late-night rehearsals, the rejection letters, the times when Maurice questioned whether he had any talent at all. Sonia was the kind of support system that didn't come with strings attached, just pure, unconditional love that asked for nothing in return except to be cherished. But Maurice, caught up in the intoxicating whirlwind that was Pearl, made a decision that would haunt him like a bad song stuck on repeat. He left Sonia for Pearl, and the internet had a field day with it. Picture this: one day you're everyone's relationship goals, and the next day you're trending for all the wrong reasons. The blogs erupted like volcanoes, spewing hot takes and cold truths. Sonia wasn't enough, they said. She couldn't handle the spotlight, they whispered. Maurice upgraded, they declared, as if love was a phone plan that needed better coverage. Sonia watched her name get dragged through the digital mud while Maurice said nothing, too caught up in his new life to defend the woman who had stood by him when standing by him meant something. The woman who had loved him when he was nobody was now being called nobody by people who didn't know her at all. Through it all, Sonia displayed the kind of grace that would make angels take notes. She didn't fire back on social media, didn't spill tea in interviews, didn't write any tell-all post that would have broken the internet. Instead, she did something so radical in today's world that it was almost revolutionary. She stayed silent and focused on herself. While the world expected her to explode like a shaken soda bottle, Sonia chose to flow like a river, quiet but persistent, always moving forward. She channeled her heartbreak into personal growth, her pain into purpose, and her disappointment into determination. Sonia understood something that most people never learn: sometimes the most powerful response is no response at all. She let her character speak louder than any words ever could, and slowly but surely, people began to see the real story, not the one the blogs were selling, but the one written in her dignity and strength. Meanwhile, Maurice was learning the hard way that not all that glitters is gold. Sometimes it's just glitter, and glitter has a way of getting everywhere and being impossible to clean up. His relationship with Pearl was like living in a house of mirrors. Everything looked exciting and infinite, but it was all just reflections with no real substance. Pearl loved the idea of Maurice Sam the celebrity, but she had zero interest in Maurice the man who still worried about his mother's health, who sometimes missed his hometown, who had insecurities and fears just like everyone else. When the camera stopped rolling and the spotlight dimmed, Pearl would check out emotionally, like she was a fair-weather friend who only showed up when the weather was perfect. Maurice began to feel like he was dating his own public image, and let me tell you, your public image makes for terrible company during the 3 a.m. conversations when you're questioning everything about your life. The moment of truth came when Maurice was cleaning out his old apartment. Yes, even celebrities have to deal with the mundane task of going through old stuff. Buried under contracts and fan letters, he found a photograph that hit him like a freight train carrying a cargo load of regret. It was a picture of him and Sonia from 3 years ago, sitting on his tiny apartment balcony, sharing a pizza that cost $12 and probably tasted like cardboard, but they were laughing like they'd discovered the secret to happiness. Maurice was wearing a shirt with a hole in it, Sonia had her hair in a messy bun, and they looked so ridiculously happy that it hurt to look at. In that photo, Maurice wasn't performing, wasn't on, wasn't trying to be anyone other than exactly who he was. And Sonia was looking at him like he was already everything she'd ever wanted, success or no success. That photograph was like a time machine that transported Maurice back to when love was simple, real, and didn't require a marketing team to maintain. The universe has a funny way of bringing people back together when they need it most, and Maurice's reunion with Sonia happened at a charity event that he almost didn't attend. He was having one of those days where everything felt performative and exhausting, but his publicist insisted he make an appearance. There, across a crowded room filled with the who's who of society, stood Sonia. But this wasn't the heartbroken woman he'd left behind. This was Sonia 2.0, upgraded by healing, polished by growth, and radiating the kind of peace that money can't buy and fame can't manufacture. She had transformed her pain into power, her setback into a comeback, and Maurice felt his heart do that thing where it recognizes home before your brain catches up. She was talking to a group of children at the charity event, and watching her laugh with them, Maurice realized that Sonia had always possessed something he'd been chasing his entire career. The ability to make people feel genuinely happy just by being herself. That night, Maurice finally found the courage to end things with Pearl, and it went about as smoothly as you'd expect a breakup with a human hurricane to go. But for the first time in years, Maurice spoke his truth without worrying about how it would trend on Twitter. He told Pearl that he needed someone who loved Maurice, not Maurice Sam the brand, and that Sonia was the only person who had ever seen him, really seen him, and loved what she found. Pearl's response was predictably explosive, but Maurice felt lighter than he had in years, like he'd finally taken off shoes that had been 2 sizes too small. Now came the real challenge, winning back a woman who had every right to tell him to take his second chance dreams and file them under too little, too late. When Maurice approached Sonia, she didn't slam doors or create drama. She simply told him that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice you make every day, and choices have consequences. She explained that real love requires consistency, trust, and respect, 3 things that can't be rebuilt with grand gestures and expensive gifts but only with time, patience, and genuine change. So here's where our story stands. Maurice is now on the ultimate comeback tour, not for his career, but for his heart. He's learning that winning back true love isn't like winning an award. There's no acceptance speech that fixes everything, no applause that erases the hurt, no spotlight that illuminates the path forward. It's daily work, showing up consistently, proving through actions that the man who chose fame over love has grown into someone who finally understands what really matters. And the beautiful moral of this story: never, ever trade something real for something that just looks good on paper, because while excitement and glamour can give you incredible highs, only genuine love can give you a life worth living. What about you? Have you ever found yourself choosing what looked impressive over what actually mattered? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts, because we've all been Maurice at some point, and maybe Sonia's wisdom is exactly what we need to hear today. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind us what really matters in this crazy, beautiful, complicated thing we call life.